What's up, guys? Welcome to Coach K Answers 5 Reps with Coach K, where I answer 5 client questions I've received this week. Before we get into those answers, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any future content or any of my free training tutorials. Let's get started. Question 1. What support equipment should I use if I'm interested in weightlifting? And how do I properly use it? So first and foremost, the few things you'll find at the gym that are very common are something like a belt, wrist straps, and knee sleeves. So for most general trainees, I definitely recommend wearing a belt. If you're a brand new beginner, you might not use the belt for a little while. You want to get really good at performing the basic squat, bench, deadlift. You want to make sure you're good at those first and you know how to properly brace your core and hold intra-abdominal pressure before you use the belt. But for most lifters who are just past this stage, they're interested in getting nice and strong, putting out a lot of reps with good weight, a belt can come in real handy. So when you're using a belt, you want to make sure that you put the belt on above the top of your hip bone, but a little bit below where your rib sort of sticks out in the middle of your torso here. When you're wearing a belt, you do want to make sure it's quite tight. So when you put the belt on, you want to breathe out hard and then brace your core as you tighten the belt. You want to make sure that when the belt is on, you're still able to brace your core and flex your back, but you want to make sure you can only get a couple fingers in there. You want to make sure it's nice and tight. When you're using the belt, be sure to put it on before each set. Take it off after each set as well. So if it's so loose that you could just wear the thing for your entire workout, you're not using it properly. 2 other pieces of equipment of interest to help you in your lifts are going to be those wrist straps and knee sleeves. Wrist straps are especially common. They're usually quite stiff and they're usually like 12 inches or 16 inches. They're meant to wrap around your wrists and provide a lot of compression and support. When you're doing low bar squats especially, you put wrist straps on as you get to heavier weights. They essentially just help you keep your wrist nice and straight. On bench press, you can use wrist straps there as well. When you're using them on bench press, you can let the wrist strap creep up a little higher around the back of your wrist, and they just help you keep your wrist nice and stable. Only use these wrist straps on heavy pressing exercises. You shouldn't need to use wrist straps on any of your accessories or anything like that. Now when it comes to knee sleeves, especially for squats, those are totally fine to use. Again, get a pair that's nice and tight. Make sure you can pull it up so it's actually higher than your knee. You want it to go from the top of your calf to, maybe the lower part of your quads or maybe to a little bit of like mid-thigh. Make sure those are nice and tight as well. They should be snug. You should still be able to bend your knees. Put them on before you do your warm-up. Otherwise, they're going to be a real pain to get on when you're sweaty. 2, should I track calories or macros if I'm trying to lose weight, if I want to reach my goal? So I've essentially got 2 different levels of answer for this question. If you have experience doing diets in the past or you have been tracking your calories before, then having a calorie tracking app is going to be super useful for you. You can just measure your foods, plug them in, and get an idea for where your macros are at and adjust them to reach your goal. Get into a calorie deficit if you're trying to lose fat. Make sure you hit your protein. If you have experience tracking calories, you have experience using fitness apps like MyFitnessPal or another tracking app, then that's totally a good idea. However, if I have a client who doesn't really track their calories at all and they have no experience tracking, we usually don't give them a calorie goal right off the bat because they have no baseline. What I oftentimes have people do is try to stick to a consistent eating schedule. So if you generally know you eat the same things for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and one snack, then we will just try to make some modifications, emphasizing more fruits and veggies, lower energy density foods, stuff that keeps you full but has less calories. I'll usually try to have them shoot for their protein goal and then generally follow diet habits in order to reduce their calorie intake, especially if there's somebody I know that will, not enjoy tracking or just fall off the wagon completely. Emphasizing protein and daily habits is a great way to go. And it's question 3. How long should I rest in between each set? So generally speaking, you'll oftentimes hear the recommendation of 2 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes online if you look this question up in regards to strength and hypertrophy training. Some exercises and some muscle groups require more rest, while others require less. So here's how to sort of evaluate each set and determine just how much rest you need. So factor one, the first thing we consider when it comes to rest time is our cardio and our breathing. So you want to make sure that your heart rate is lowered and your breathing is back to normal before you do your next set. Second factor we consider when we're evaluating how long we should rest is our main muscle groups. If we're considering a movement like leg press, the main muscle group is the quads. So I'm going to wait until I can do at least 6 reps. That's the floor. Make sure I can do at least 6 reps. My quads feel ready to go. That might take like 1 or 2 minutes, and that's my second check on this 4-factor checklist. Number 3 is supporting muscle groups. On that same leg press example, if my quads feel ready to go after 2 minutes, but my back is still fried, it's not ready to flex, my grip is still shot, I'm not ready to hold on to that leg press machine, I'm gonna give it another minute, and that might take a little longer. Last check is psychological recovery. If you have that pit of your stomach dread, like, oh, I know I'm just not ready to hit this, or man, I just feel like this is going to crush me right now. And you still have that feeling and that sort of negative psychology just thinking about your next set, that's honestly a pretty good indicator that you're still pretty fatigued. You need to give it another minute before you hit your next set. So in conclusion, when we're evaluating our rest time, cardio and heart rate, main muscle group recovery, supporting muscle group recovery, and finally, psychological readiness. Are you ready to go? Use those 4 factors to crush your next training session. Also, total credit to RP Strength and Dr. Mike Israetel for that 4-factor rest time model. I totally think it is awesome to use, and I use it with all my clients. Question 4. What supplements do you recommend for training? Well, when it comes to training, there's really only a handful of supplements that are shown to be super effective. One of them is caffeine, fairly obviously. In most pre-workouts, they'll have a little bit of caffeine. Obviously, there's things like coffee. I totally recommend these for sort of a little psychological boost, and it's shown to have a pretty solid training effect on both cardio and strength training. The other thing that I would totally recommend as a supplement is creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate, besides caffeine, is probably the best research supplement on the planet. There's almost no other supplement that has been studied as many times as creatine, and almost all of the studies show that it has a very positive ergogenic effect, sport-enhancing effect on strength and hypertrophy training. It seems to have the following effects, one of which is increasing max power and force output. The other one is generally increasing rep performance. And a third effect, which is useful for hypertrophy and bodybuilding, is it has a volumizing effect on your muscle cells and an indirect boost to the hypertrophic processes that follow. It's not a drug, it's not a steroid, it is in fact a naturally occurring amino acid, and it's really composed of 2 amino acids. Your body already produces it, but in order to get sort of this sport-enhancing effect, you have to take it as a supplement. Creatine monohydrate is the one to buy. Other formulations like creatine hydrochloride, they're made to mix with water, but they just don't work as well, and they haven't been studied as well. The generic dose is like 5 grams per day. I think a little bit higher of a dose is also shown to be even a little bit more effective. For my body weight personally, I take 8 grams per day. The only other supplements I would personally recommend is something like a protein supplement. Have a whey or casein protein supplement at home. It's super useful if you need a quick snack or you're between meals. Question 5. What is the best way to break through a plateau when my progress stalls? When your progress stalls, I'm going to assume scenario 1, you are following what we'd call a continuous program where you don't really have deloads set up at regular intervals. You're sort of just performing the same progression week to week for, 6+ weeks. So when your progress stalls in that sort of program, where let's say you've been training for 12 weeks or 3 months straight, right? You've been doing the same progression, doing the same lifts, seeing your progress go up. This is often the case for, beginners to the gym or, early intermediates. You're still in that phase of being able to, progress every single week. In this scenario, what you're going to want to do is take one easy week, do a deload week. You might need to take a couple steps back so you can take more steps forward in the future. If you've been seeing, a period of 8 or more weeks, 6 or more weeks, where you've been able to just progress things every single week, it shouldn't be crazy that you notice you need to take a little step back in order to make more progress again in the future. Throwing a deload week in once you start to see your progress stall out can usually bump you past that initial plateau. Now, if you've been training for, multiple years and you start to notice you're already at the phase where you have to do specific progressions over a shorter amount of time, let's say 4 weeks or 6 weeks, that's what we call an intermediate lifter, or someone who's beginning to be more advanced. In that case, you're already doing these programs where you do a deload at somewhat regular intervals. The way you're going to break through plateaus at that stage is you're going to have changes to your program that are going to either change the volume that you're receiving, it'll change the type of stimulus you're receiving. So if it's strength training, you might change the rep scheme or the percentage of weight that you're using in general. If you're doing hypertrophy training, it might be changing up exercises, it might be increasing volume, it might be playing around with frequency. As you become more intermediate and you already are using deloads periodically to refresh yourself and refresh your progression, you might need to break through longer term plateaus with a little more nuance. Thank you guys for watching 5 reps with Coach K. Again, thank you very much for your support. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future CK Strength content. Go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram too, @CK Strength. And remember guys, if you want to make progress, you got to make progress. I'll see you guys all later.